Hey, welcome to Condo World Wide. I'm your host, Chase Johnson Lynch. And I got to tell you, I really feel good about this show because it's a show that we created kind of like in reaction to what's going on in the world. We have this pandemic that we're all living in. We have this self-isolation that's causing us to kind of like reinvent ourselves and show the dominable human spirit that we all have and survive. And so this show is one of those things that we like to do that. We like to reach out to different people around the world, so to speak. We've been to Santo Domingo, we've been to Florida, Australia, California, and now we are going to hop on our internet jet and head over to Denver, Colorado to a good old friend of mine named Art Thomas. So welcome, Arthur O. Thomas.
A pleasure to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
Hey man, no, it's a pleasure. I know it's very early for you when we're doing this recording, so we definitely do appreciate that and everything. You're looking good, in that survival mode. I asked you earlier in our show notes about like how was the weather for the first thing because you just sent me a video just like I think it was last week when it was snowing. So like, how is it over there, man?
Yeah, so the weather in Colorado is somewhat fickle. We've got a saying here that says, if you don't like the weather, wait 15 minutes because it will change. And with respect to the weather last week, March is the most, or the wettest month, I'll say, here in the state of Colorado. So we get more precipitation in March than anytime during the ski season and things like that. So it's not surprising to have, in Fahrenheit at least, a 70-degree day followed by a 20-degree day with snow, followed by a 60-degree day with, weather. So Colorado, its weather is somewhat bipolar.
Well, I'm kind of used to that over here in Liverpool as well because I always say that in Liverpool it's like four seasons in a day, especially around that time of year where we can get sleet in March at sometimes. So it's like you never know what to wear because you can go out and it's pouring down rain, and then you put on a big coat, and then it's like hot like a couple of hours later, and then it's snowing that night. So yeah, we're on a warm front, they say. I took meteorology in college, so I'm kind of like good that way. But in your perspective though, like we kind of like to find out how it is over on the other side of the world. Now we're in I believe week 3 or 4, depending on how you look at it.
Right.
I don't know any concept of time. But how has it been, and how is it still over there in Colorado?
Well, it's interesting, with the social distancing and the governor requesting that people sort of stay home, it's put a new spin on how do you spend your day, right? And so I typically try to keep to my routine, and the classes that I teach, for example, have migrated to online. So I'll come prepared for class as if I was in front of the students to sort of maintain some sort of, normalcy, so people can kind of see that things are somewhat crazy, but at the same time, we're trying to maintain some consistency. But it's like many places, fewer cars on the road, fewer people moving about, and so it's a challenge, but I think we'll get through it.
So let's talk a bit about like the classes because we've been having a couple of conversations with people in different areas talking about digital homeschooling. So it's good to actually speak to a teacher like yourself. Like, tell us what it is that you teach and how's that going in that aspect.
So I'm teaching in the communication department at Metro State University of Denver, and in that department, we're dealing with production management, intro to production, media production, things like that. In those classes, the students have a rigorous course load to deal with. And then because we break it out on a weekly basis, we're simply managing that work now online. So we've had to make some adjustments. The schools themselves are being somewhat flexible because they understand that students are also challenged by trying to graduate when graduations have been postponed, or trying to stay connected to the classwork. So it's the same course load, but we're distributing that information obviously online and trying to work with the students to make sure we accommodate their needs as well.
Now, what's different though about your type of media that you're teaching is it's a little bit more on the production side, isn't it? Because like you said, right now you're in the middle of doing pitch packages, and I know that at one point, I came in and we were talking about pitches where the students were able to deliver pitches. And what also is great about this, though, is that a lot of your students have gone on to make films, haven't they?
Exactly. And so with respect to the pitch packages that we're doing, and of course, I support the Colorado Film School, and there's two courses there. Producing the Independent Project is one course, and the other course is Film and Video Business. So in those two courses, because a lot of the work that we're doing is based on creating a document, right? You're creating the pitch package in one sense, or you're creating a business plan in the other class. The good news is that that information, because it has to be created in isolation anyway, and then presented back to the instructor, the students are able to do that at home or in their isolated locations, and we can email that, and I can comment on a system similar to this one with respect to giving them feedback or answering any questions.
Yeah, because I mean, obviously it's still the pre-production side of things, isn't it? So they still have to do that bit of work on their own. They have to do the research and find out, especially if they have to do budgeting, they have to just kind of like research all of that as well. But let's talk about like some of this, because I remember a fantastic film that you shared with me called Hush Money. Did that come out of one of your projects?
Well, Hush Money was created through a couple of people that work at the film school. I was a executive producer on that project, and I had an opportunity to support that team. Gridhouse Films is the one that put that out. I was a producer on that. That film is currently still running on Amazon Prime in certain markets here in the US and other foreign markets.
Well, yeah, but let's not bury the lead, bruh. I mean, like, what's great about it is that I've experienced, schools in different areas, where, you training your students to make a short film, or students, they get the equipment, they go out and try to make that feature. And you have been moderately consistent in like supporting people, whether it's as an executive or a consultant or whatever, and making, projects that actually not only go to video, which is not a bad market to go into,
right,
but they are now going into, as you just say, Amazon. And we also have the advent of online streaming right now. So,
right.
you've been doing a lot of great work, in the times that I've known you. So I just want to big you up on that, sir. You know what I mean? But
yeah, no, absolutely. No, I appreciate that, and with respect to Hush Money and those projects, you may recall you were personally involved in your comments on that script as well. You workshopped the script, you've done some things for us there. And so no, I appreciate your help on that as well.
The pitch of that script was kind of weird and everything, but when the film came out, it was really good to see a film going from concept. This was in a classroom, and it's now being held in your hand in a video store. I just think that's phenomenal, man. And I don't think there's a lot of other, schooling, projects that I've heard of, whatever. I haven't been to USC or UCLA,
but for Colorado, you're right. This is something pretty cool for us here in Colorado, because we're not the New Yorks or LAs, and so when you have a project go through its whole maturation process, it's good to see that happen.
Yeah, so I mean, because because there's a new project that you were telling me about. You sent me the script of and everything. We were talking a bit about it. I mean, if you want to say a little bit about this, I mean, it's not to expose it, but just kind of like maybe a little bit of background on the filmmaker of this Dark Horse project that you had let me take a look at.
With respect to Dark Horse, Ryan Douglas, who produced that as a student short film, there at the Colorado Film School, approached me on the idea of the project and possibly trying to support him in the short. I looked at the concept and mentioned that if he was successful in getting that short film entered into our showcase, if you will, I would be willing to speak to him about developing that into a feature. And so Jeremiah Blackman and Dakota, the two writers on it, they put a script together that we are now reviewing and going through some notes and trying to make it better for a feature version, given the nature of the story. It's sort of a political thriller or whatever you want to call it, but it gives us the ability to have a timely project that allows us to create something that has a shelf life. If we do it this year, for example, we can get something out that would be relevant to what the world's dealing with, whether it's the UK or the US, and you're dealing with your politics and what have you. We've taken a different look on this story and tried to show the underbelly of what the human condition can create when you have too much power.
Well, like, see, I also like I'm involved in like teaching and master classes, and I usually like focus on directors in a factor that I try to point out to them. The most important thing is style and technique. You have to know who you are, and why should someone hire you to make their film?
Exactly.
Because of the type of films that you're interested in. So, I mean, in my experience of you, I'm like, what is wrong? What is up with you in politics, bruh? Because like one of the first films that we were involved with, again, was a political thriller called The Passerby.
Oh, yes.
You actually came here to Liverpool,
yes,
and we shot together and everything else like that. So what is up with you in politics, man?
Well, I think we're all
in a political bent to it.
Yeah, I think politics in general, I'm not excited about. I don't think it's the politics that draws people to these sort of creative endeavors. I think it's the impact or the reaction thereof that people want to express their satisfaction, dissatisfaction, or what have you with the subject, right? And whether it's your leader over there in the UK or what we have here in the US, we're all looking at that situation and we have opinions, whether we support or disagree with what these people do. Is pretty interesting to see how we have a visceral reaction, if you will, to this. And I think that translates into the creative side of it, where you want to tell the story or you want to sort of expose something that's important to you.
Well, it's kind of like, you got this like Bill Maher video going around called The Pandemic. And like, I'm surprised your students aren't in your like classes now trying to figure out some way of telling that story. Has anybody came to you with a pitch around that, around our current scenario, or your current president? I've been living here, bro.
Yeah, there's a couple of things that are happening, and I think there's the reaction, and then there's this numbness, right? A lot of it you don't know if this stuff is even real or when this thing is going to end or what have you, right? So you get into this mindset that, okay, well, I guess this is the movie that we're watching, and when is the commercial break going to take place, or when are we going to see the credits roll?
Yeah, when is it over? Can I go to sleep and wake up and it's over? Here the end credits.
That's right. So hopefully we'll see some end credits at some point, but I think right now people are reacting. And your question is valid, I think, in terms of, are students doing it? Yes, this particular Dark Horse project is a political thing, created by guys in their 20s, right? So they're sort of experiencing that. You referenced The Passerby, the story that you put together that we supported some 15 years ago that we shot there in Liverpool, right? That was a story about a rogue agent, from the US who hides out after the selection of the president in 2002 or what have you. So I think there's a lot of longevity on these projects, and working with you on that, gave me an insight into how this could be fun and an exciting story. And I think also the most recent project also takes us down that same path. Let's take a look at this entity, this thing called, political system, and what's good and bad about it. Because I think it comes down to people, Chase. I think it's good people and bad people. I don't think, it just happens to be politics.
Yeah, I mean, no, because that was one of the things I had liked about the script and reading and starting to read the Dark Horse script is I liked the whole media inserts that were going on and everything. And that is what we have is a lot of media inserts now. There's a lot of short bite, communication. You even got the rise of the Wibby platform that Spielberg and Katzenberg have put together, of short form media and stuff like that. But so with that being said, it's just that you were also telling me that one of your students are actually, and we also should clarify these are college adults, aren't they? These
Yes, yes,
courses.
there are college students ranging anywhere from age, 20 to, say, in some cases, we have 40 and 50-year-old students that come
So
back to
mature
finish things.
students as well,
Exactly,
yeah.
more mature students with work experience and things like that. So yeah, these are not primary school or anything, but these are young adults.
Yeah. So I mean, like with that being said, is that like you said there's a project that like you guys are looking to do around the COVID scenario and everything. Is it too soon to mention that or?
Yeah, I think you're referring to the project by a scientist friend of mine, Tom Stogren, who has a project that is a documentary actually that deals with the pandemic. And in 4 episodes, he wants to put together a storyline that talks about COVID-19 and some of the preliminary steps that were or were not taken by both the US and, in this case, the UK government as well. And so
Mm-hmm.
we can talk about that project subsequent to this
Yeah.
discussion, I'm sure, but it is a project that we would like to support him on, um,
Yeah.
that shows both sides of the pond and how two countries dealt with the COVID situation and their reaction
Yeah.
um, to the initial news, and also straight through to what steps are we taking to protect our citizens.
Yeah. I guess that's why I mean I also just kind of like mentioned it only because it's like, I mean it is something that, like we're interested in and it's like it would cause like various people to be involved in and everything. So let's go back to like working in isolation, like one of the things, the issues around film or media courses is that there's the theoretical side, the theory side, which I'm sure you deliver on as I do as well. But then there's also the practical side. So it's kind of like, if we look at our world market, movie theaters are shutting down, Disneyland shut down, and like, how are people staying busy? And a lot of people have moved into this podcasting universe, and everything else like that. And it's surviving, and doing it like we're doing it or differently and all that other stuff.
Mhm.
But what are you thinking about that? And do you think that this is going to change the industry? Let's look at your business head for example. Yeah, like we the summer season is key to
Right.
movie studios, and it's survival. And everybody has been for 3 weeks been talking about it's only 2 weeks. Okay, then well, it's Easter. Okay,
Right.
June, so that way we
Right.
still hit the summer. How about August, bro?
Yeah.
So let's put your little business head in there. I mean, what are you thinking? As far as the media and the survival and like potentially will survive because AMC has been shut down. I heard
That's
the
correct, Chase. And
popular film chain.
yeah, and I think that impact of what's happening in the industry, let's talk about it in a couple of ways. One, let's talk about the theater exhibition, or as you mentioned, AMC. These theater
Mm,
chains, which are brick and mortar operations, right? These are the theaters where people go to physically experience the movie. In the United
exactly.
States, we have approximately 40,000 screens, right? In the United States, about 40,000 screens. So that means on a wide release movie, something like your biggest movies that come out, they get about 4,000 screens. So 10% of the available screen real estate, if you will, is dedicated to those major studio films, right? No
Mm-hmm.
one's going to the movies right now. So if you're in the theater exhibition business and you're trying to understand how do you stay afloat, it's very difficult because people are now, it's been 2, 3, going on 4 weeks for some people where they're not even going to these theaters. So my prediction or my thought on the brick and mortar operation is what happens when coronavirus dissipates? What happens when we get back to some sort of normal? Well, the normal has now, I think, in some respects, shifted a little bit because the theaters are subject to no attendance, which means you're paying rent, you're paying for these things. So at some point on someone's
And
business
concessions.
spreadsheet, they're going to determine, hey, we saved a lot of money by not having to operate that thing as well. So I wonder if you're going to see some of these theaters close down, or the buildings will be used for a different purpose, because the practice of the consumer has been modified, right? We don't go to the movie theater, so I've got an empty room, and as you
got
know,
a
Chase,
Netflix watch party.
Yeah, watch parties are happening, things like that. So people are shifting the way that they consume their media.
And
With respect to, wait, I was going to say, with respect to the home streaming, you notice same day releases now. So you're going to have theater movies that were at the theater this weekend when they would release and so forth. You're now seeing ads on television where they're releasing movies right to your home. So people are now streaming first release, first run movies right there at the house.
Yeah, I mean that's been a whole argument around Black Widow kind of thing, you know, which was supposed to be the latest Marvel release that was supposed to be out, and it's like, should they just release it? You know, I mean, they are actually HBO Max is coming, and they are actually, you know, saying, hey, just put it on HBO Max. People are starving for this content, give it to them. But it's
Right.
like you just said, you know, with all of those theater chains and the money, this is how they hit the $1 billion, you know. And it's kind of like, listen, man, you were falling anyway. You know
Right.
what I mean? Not
Right.
making money anyway at this stage. So the more you hold that film back or the content back from the audience that's starving for it, they're not even going to probably care at the end of the day. But then, like, the deal is, show them the change. Now, let me ask you, because again, on the business side, you probably remember Napster.
Oh, yes.
You know, the whole Napster fiasco. Now, before that, we were buying cassettes, CDs, vinyl, and all that in the shop every week. And then that whole Napster, you know, hack explosion happened, and it just killed the record labels.
Right.
And like then what they had to do was, how are we going to survive? And they were plummeting, just like right now with the movies. So
That's
what
right.
I'm just trying to say is that, like, is this similar? Because we moved into a streaming music world now. I mean, now I got Apple on my phone, and I got 3,000 choices. If I have a song, I can remember the name of it, and it's on my phone. So, like, so they have managed to make money, because even though the song is free, I still want to see the artist at a concert. So they raise the prices at the concerts, and people can go. You know, so this is what I'm just trying to say about tomorrow. Is it's like, is it worth holding films back if they're already in the cast? Is it worth holding them back? And will we actually indeed probably move to this form of media streaming for movies? What are you thinking?
Well, I think in that respect, if you're going to hold the films back, or if you're going to delay release of a particular project, one of the challenges, unlike your Napster example or what have you, where technology, you know, kills its predecessor, right? So we used to have video stores, and we went to DVDs, and now we stream content or music, the example you gave.
Blockbuster.
So because technology kills its predecessor, I think when you look at delaying these releases of these films you're talking about, one thing to add to that equation that we don't hear much about is the consumers' activity, the habits that we now have embraced, the social distancing. Am I going to feel comfortable coming out of my isolation, sitting in a theater next to a stranger who happens to cough? He could have nothing other than some popcorn stuck in his throat, but that's not going to be the trigger for me. It's going to be like, is this guy contagious, right? So I think people are going to have the social distancing effect. It's going to be, do I want to be in a crowded room with a bunch of strangers? Do I want to go, you know, and what have you? So I think the release of the movie or delaying the release date is a practical approach that the studio may want to take to try to maximize the return on that investment. But I think the challenge that they're going to face is you're going to have people that are in a different mindset when it comes to social gatherings.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, that's the main thing is I think we might move into this kind of like return to hedonism. What, we can touch again?
Yeah.
You
So
know?
I think it's, well, whether or not we go back to handshakes and all this, there's talk about maybe we change some of those customs because people are in fact, you know, fist bumping and bumping elbows now, right? So it's changing. Yeah.
I was doing that in the last week, you know what I mean? You know, I was like, yeah, what's up, bro?
Yeah, we do the elbow
Where's
thing.
your
But yeah,
elbow been, man?
that's right. That's right. So it's interesting. You know, I think you've got a lot of things that are impacting. You also have the creative side, as you talked about what's happening with these delays. So now on the production creative side, there's no content being made in the traditional sense. The pipeline of products, the summer blockbuster, all of that's changing, right? Because the summer
Yeah.
blockbuster is now in September, and they're going to try to push these other movies around. And I think it's going to, in a positive way, Chase, I think it's going to change the way that we look at our entertainment, look at our time, look at what's really important. And I think the movie industry is negatively impacted by what's happening, of course, because of the people not attending, live showings or scheduled showings of films. You can say the same thing about the airline industry. I read recently where in the United States, the airline industry is down 96%. People aren't
I
traveling.
can imagine that, bro. Where can you go? And plus, it's all on lockdown anyway, right? So it's like,
Exactly.
it's like a force field. It's like being within a force field. I mean, we are definitely in Logan's Run future, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, like, there's a concept. You can have that for free. But like,
Yeah.
but I mean, like, either way you look at it, it sounds like you still, as always, have some great projects going on. I really do like, recognize your work ethic, because like you're a man who's constantly, moving from idea to idea as a way a producer should, and everything. And as you said, you're teaching the new breed, so to
Oh
speak,
yeah. Oh yeah.
because like your students have been working hard and have been going out and working in that industry. So I think Colorado is definitely a place that people should look at. Last thing I want to say to you, or ask, is that do you what was I gonna say? Last thing I want to say is, what did you think about the Tyler Perry Studios before we go?
I didn't hear the
Tyler
question. I'm
Perry
sorry.
Studios, and what did you think about the Tyler Perry Studios opening in Atlanta?
Well, I think the Tyler Perry Studios is a remarkable situation. I think it's noted to be the largest, if not the second largest studio in the United States by, land space in terms of the size of the studio, but doing a lot of interesting work, giving people opportunities that maybe they would not otherwise receive, working on subject matters or storylines that typically may not be your mainstream subjects, but they are in fact important American stories or human stories, you could say, that need to be told, right? So I applaud people like Tyler Perry that take their initiative and they have a vision on what they want to do and they don't let other people stop them, So I think it's a good thing. Some people will like it, some people won't, but some people like Disney, some people don't. So I think it's a function of giving people an opportunity to express themselves and tell the untold story. And I think Tyler Perry or Spike Lee or a lot of these folks are doing exactly that.
Yeah. Well, once again, man, I just want to thank you, Art, for having this conversation with me here at Condo World Wide, giving us perspective in many different things, and also it's been really interesting talking to an educator in this time period, especially one who is still out there educating our young and everything as you're doing. And I look forward to, these projects that you got coming up and everything. And so once again, I want to thank my guest, Arthur Thomas from Denver.
Appreciate being here, Chase. Thank you so much for having us. And if you need anything in the future, if you would like me to bring together some of these other folks that I work with in the industry, whether it's Tom Stogren with the documentary on the COVID situation, or whether it's Terrell Lamont, director, writer, producer of Hush Money, Ava, the movie that screened in March down in Hollywood and so forth, the sci-fi thriller. It would be great to bring those folks on as well. So anything I can do to help you guys, please let me know. And thank you so much for having me this morning and to make me a part of this exciting platform that you've created. And say hello to Blake for me. Say hello to Blake for me. Blake's the hardest working guy on this thing, man. Chase, you're just there.
Somebody got to give him some love. You know what I mean? We wouldn't be here without him, man. So Blake Emery, of course. So once again, I'm Chase Johnson Lynch. This has been Condo Worldwide. And, we out of here.